This is the Norseman Xtreme Triathlon. It's known as one of the toughest events on the planet, and it's my first ever full distance Ironman. And it's here in Norway, the land of the midnight sun, the Vikings, and some of the most breathtaking scenery. Its high peaks and vast fjords, etched out by the Ice Age, have created one of the most grueling terrains I've ever seen.
How that's happened, but then not for you.
Yeah, this race really scares me. It's, this has been known as one of the toughest events in the world. Yeah, I'd be mad if I wasn't scared of this event. The Norseman Triathlon first took place back in 2003 with just 21 participants. Today, there are thousands of applicants with just 300 athletes being lucky enough to get a start. It's known as one of the hardest events in the world, and here's why. It starts by jumping off the back of a ferry into the freezing cold water of the Hardanger Fjord for a 3.8 kilometre swim. Then a 180 kilometre bike. This starts with a grueling 40 kilometre climb from sea level up to over 1,200 metres. This brings us to the largest mountain plateau in Northern Europe, the Hardanger Vidda. Onto the second half of the bike, there isn't a flat square inch, with the final nail in the coffin, a 7 kilometre brutal climb with a total elevation of 3,500 metres. Now, despite the brutal bike course, it is in fact the run that Norseman is legendary for. It's a 42.2 kilometre run. It starts by following the valley floor towards Mount Gustavtoppen. It's at this point we begin to climb. And boy, do we climb. The next 10k is up the infamous Zombie Hill. And it's here the cut-off point where the first 160 athletes are allowed up to the top of the mountain for the Black Finishers t-shirt. The run tackles hills, mountains, rocks and boulders, a total of over 1,700 metres of climbing, all of which happens within the final 17 kilometres of the race. Now, to put this into perspective, every athlete is required to have a support crew that follow them throughout the day, including even having to run up the mountain section. This has been really tough for me to train for. It's been really hard for me and my girlfriend. I've had to sacrifice so much in terms of getting my training in. So actually, for me, if I can get to the top of that mountain, fingers crossed, I get that black t-shirt and I go to the top. That would mean so much, not only for me, but also for my girlfriend and also for the support team here, Global Triathlon Network, Fraser, everyone that's helped me make this possible. In a weird way, I was relieved to finally be here. I've raced professionally hundreds of times, but for some reason, this time felt different. I've visited Norway before and have always been taken in by the scenery, but these mountains surrounding me all of a sudden felt a lot bigger, knowing I'd have to climb them in less than 24 hours' time. This race has been on my mind for so many years, and for the first time, I wasn't racing for money or for a job. I was racing for me and for those who helped to get me here.
Do you want to catch us both diving?
Yeah.
Should we go off this side?
It is deep enough to dive, right?
Yeah. This, as many of you know, is Fraser. A colleague, a friend, and a very accomplished Ironman, and most importantly, an experienced Keltman finisher. And this is Cassie, my partner of 4 years, my biggest supporter, and despite ignoring her for my training the past few months, surprisingly, she really wanted to be here, and I felt so much more confident knowing she would be there on race day.
Should we stop for a picnic?
Make a nice sandwich?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun.
So this makes up my support crew. They will both be following me throughout the course of the race, effectively a mobile aid station, and helping me to get around this event in one piece.
Doing really well.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye-bye. It's 3 a.m. This was it. The culmination of all that sacrifice and all that training. I'm pretty nervous now. It's all becoming a little bit real. Tension's just sort of building for the next hour as we get the ferry, go out into the middle of the fjord, we wait, we jump off. We've got 10 minutes then until the start. So yeah, part of me just wants to get on with this. Obviously, big day ahead, so very nervous. As I stood there looking around at all the other nervous faces, it started to get to me. Okay, moments away from the door opening and jumping into the water. This is the big unknown for me. First iron distance, toughest race out there. But this was no time to back out.
Now we are ready to jump.
It was cold. Without thinking, I'd somehow managed to swim my way to the front. It was just a natural reaction. My mood was up and it felt good to have a lead, although oddly, I was having some slight issues with cramp in my legs.
Mark is almost out of the water. We've just spotted him on this jetty here where the ferry picked him up about an hour and a half ago. And it's lined with people, everyone's cheering him on. It's really exciting. So I've now got to get to the exit of the water because we have to be there ready for your athlete to run through transition and then help them. So I'm going to get my way there now. How do you feel?
All right.
Yeah.
How much of a gap have I got?
Quite a lot, at least 200 metres, so there's quite a long gap there. And it's very spread out, so I would just take it easy.
You just get a gap, or just like...
Well, I think that's just instinctive, isn't it?
With a gap of roughly 3 minutes, I knew I would have to pace myself. My competitive nature really wanted to do nothing but race, but I couldn't let it get the better of me. I let the excitement settle, locked in, and started to appreciate the scenery. I actually started to have fun. I was enjoying the scenery, I settled into a good rhythm, and it was great to see Fraser and Cassie out on the road.
I don't think I'd have any doubts about him completing the race. I think he'll definitely complete it. He's got the skills in the bag. He's got the background in these activities.
Coming out of the fog after the climb, I was tired. I'd allowed myself to be passed by a few people. Not trying to follow them took a lot out of me mentally. But more than that, my legs were really cramping, and for the first time, I was genuinely worried. My support team was 7 kilometers downhill from me, and from experience, I knew that all I needed was some electrolytes.
When I fell over and he was like, electrolytes, and I remember then, they're not in there. See this red bag, there's this red bag here underneath the seatbelt. I don't know how they've gone missing, but... Cassie, I know you think, but nothing went in the back. do need to be unless they're somehow underneath the seat or Well, the thing is, in a long race like this, when you tend to need something like an electrolyte drink, you need it right now. And Mark's had to wait a good 20 minutes for us to find the electrolyte tabs. Then we've had to catch back up to him in the car. So I do feel a bit guilty about that because we don't really know what impact that's going to have on him physically.
Right, I've actually got 2 gels.
You eating that Mars bar?
Yeah, half bar.
Are you sure? Yeah, good.
With 130 kilometres covered, I was into the last 50 kilometres of the bike, but with the nail in the coffin, the final climb of the bike course still awaiting my arrival. This was my last opportunity to use my support crew, as for the final 30 kilometres from the top of this climb, I would be alone, as no support cars are allowed to help beyond here. I was hot, I was still cramping, but the bike leg was almost over. One more climb and I can tuck in on my aero bars and get down to T2 and be reunited with my support crew.
Never thought that was going to end. Sit down on the wooden bench. Turn around and sit down. I'm sure. How are you?
Alright.
Really
Cramping quite a lot there, like all the way. Like I just.
You got enough salt?
Yeah. Have we got any more pills here? Like,
I haven't got pills,
No,
but
we'll get
I'll
them
be
too,
following you
we'll
in a
start
second,
now.
so I'll get some more.
It began to occur to me that I was already in the unknown. I'm relatively inexperienced at running a marathon, let alone running a marathon off of a long bike leg. I had 25 kilometres of flat running to prepare me for what was going to be one of the biggest mental and physical battles I'd ever undertake. My legs started to feel a lot better than I expected. They felt less heavy than they have all day, and I found a really nice rhythm. Now, although my physical state was improving, it was becoming apparent that it may be my mental state that could get the better of me.
Just don't like seeing him struggling. I'm not worried, I know he can do it. It's just how we can break it down for him to get in there.
I was barely halfway through the run and I'd stopped enjoying myself. And unfortunately, that is when I caught my first glimpse of the mountain. And it broke me, absolutely broke me. I did start to wonder, how on earth am I actually going to be able to do this? My body just, I literally felt like I was crumbling. Like every step felt so hard. I had to go to a walk. And when I went to that walk, the thought of getting going again was really tough. And I've worked so hard to get to this point, then to suddenly start walking felt like a failure. And that's a long old time to feel like a failure for all the way up there. So yeah, there was a part of me that was starting to wonder, am I going to make this? at the bottom of Zombie Hill, Fraser joined me on the run, which was good and bad because I was probably at my lowest point, and actually I needed that company, but at the same time I was the worst company to have. Like, I did not want to talk. I wasn't really in the mood for chatting. I just wanted to get to the top of that, but having Fraser there was really helpful. It just sort of put the pressure on. It made everything a little bit more real that these guys are out here for me and I can't let them down. It was a pretty pivotal moment in the whole race. The top 160 get to go onto the top of Mount Top into the black finisher t-shirt. The rest of the field go along to the white finisher t-shirt. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, that was one of the biggest motivators for me doing this race, is to get that black t-shirt. So I got to the top of Zombie Hill, actually probably in the top 15, top 20, so actually quite high up. So that was a massive motivator to me, not only as I was getting to the top of Zombie Hill, but then from there on, it sort of lifted me knowing that I've made it and I'm going to get this black t-shirt. So that really pushed me on, and also knowing it's just 5 kilometers to go. I'm going to do this. And yeah, I just found some new legs, so like a new lease of life, and I was like wired. I've got to get to the top of that point, and just there's no stopping me. Well, the finish line, it's quite a bleak point on the mountain, really. It's basically a mast at the top, and literally at the summit, it's like a real point on the mountain. So there's not all that much there, but the mast. And you've got to work your way up these steps. You come off of sort of this pretty off-road, bouldery path, finally onto some steps, but my goodness, the steps just seem to go on forever. But as you're getting to the top, obviously, it's quite exposed, the wind's picking up, you're shattered. So yeah, it was a really tough point. You're so close yet so far. And as you're getting closer, you can hear the roar from the top where all the spectators are, there's the event crew. So that's really pushing you on. So whilst you're struggling so much, again, it's another sort of lift and energy to get you there. So yeah, I'm like kind of hands on my knees, sort of pushing myself up each step, getting myself there. The roar's getting louder and louder, and you finally get there. And yeah, like that was an emotional time. Just those last few steps, getting over that finish line.
Oh, good one, Mark.
Do well.
Yeah, it was one of the best things I've ever done.